Hey guys, subscribe for daily content. And if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Kizer Drop Bear Zero. We have an aluminum scales, and then you have either M390 or L-Max. You can choose between either, and I think the base prices are both the same. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to want to go with the L-Max version. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, but they come in at a base price of $119, which is very good, very competitive. This is a button-operated top liner lock, whatever Kizer calls that, but it also has no visible hardware on the outside, which is very cool. And the way that you get into the internals is also really cool. There's another thing about the internals that I think you guys will find really interesting, and we'll get into it here in just a moment. Thanks so much to Kizer for sending this in. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and make sure your notifications are turned on for the Metal Complex YouTube channel. These are available in a few different configurations. They'll be linked down below so that you guys can check them out. Instead of doing the measurement first, I'm going to go ahead and just open it up because I want to show you guys what I'm talking about. It is, in my opinion, it is very cool. So how we access initially the internals, we're actually going to need to start with a T6 to get the pocket clip screw off. But you remove the pocket clip, which by the way is reversible. You can flip it over to the other side. I do like these designs, deep carry, and they just allow you to flip the symmetrical pocket clip over. And then you're going to use a T8 screw for this scale here. I've already loosened it up just to make it a little bit easier for the video. You do get to a point here where the threads sort of hit their maximum, and it kind of bounces on that last thread. So you have to grab it and you got to mess with it a little bit, but it does come out, right? And we're going to pull the scale off here. And fortunately, the way that this knife is, it continues to operate in this, partially deconstructed state here. So we can see access, of course, to the pivot, which is a T8, and then the body screw here, which is also a T8. Then we have this screw here, which is part of the pin there that allows the button to push the lock over. We can see we can actually deploy this. It actually works completely, right? You just have to keep your finger off of that lock. But as we deploy it, you can see here how this locking system, number one, where the stop pin is. So here's your stop pin position in the closed position and in the open position. Now we have, of course, the initial engagement right behind the lock face right here. But what I find is really interesting, and I actually don't know if all of these Kizer locks are the same way. It does not have just one lock face interact. Well, it's the lock face of the blade, but there's another interaction that is separate from both the lock face interaction and the stop pin interaction. You can see this pin right here, which looks like it would be the stop pin. It's not. This is the stop pin. Now, it is fully possible that the back of this knife is actually partially contacting that pin. I actually can't see through there, so it's possible. But that pin definitely doubles as another lock bar stabilizing face, right? And here's how I know that. This pin is not cylindrical. It's not perfectly cylindrical. It's actually got a flat face right here. We're going to zoom in. Sorry. This is going to change the auto a little bit. It has this flat face right here. And this face is actually contacting the back of the lock bar. So this locking system is locking out between a contact here. The lock bar is contacting the lock face. The stop pin, which is attached to the blade, is stopping on the frame and potentially the back of this pin over here. And then the back of this lock bar is actually stabilized up against that pin. That's crazy. I don't know if all of Kizer's locking systems or all of their top liner lock systems are like that. But if that's the case, great. If it's not the case and it's unique to this, I think that's spectacular. That extra point of contact absolutely will assist in stability and reliability and strength and all of that. I think that is super cool, and I just thought you guys would enjoy seeing the internals here and a partial disassembly. We'll go ahead and assemble this real quickly and get back to the review. So I realized I was putting this back together. I should point this out. This little pin here can come out, so you need to be aware of that. It just goes right there in that little hole. I think we can see it there, and then it'll contact here on this side. So if you're going to take apart this knife, make sure that you are aware that that little pin can just sort of fall out of there. Okay, anyways, back to the video. Okay, we are fully reconstructed and ready to go. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this knife. This is a drop bear, but I don't know if it's exactly the same size as your standard drop bear. So overall length, yeah, looks, if my memory serves me correct, this is 7 inches. Blade length is 3 inches. Cutting edge is also about 3 inches. I guess the full blade length is a little longer than 3 inches, but there you go. Let's do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under Original Goat and Others, up against my own full-size Excalibur and my own compact Excalibur. You can see here it's a little bit smaller than the compact Excalibur, which is fine. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2, which is always running away. Here it is right here. We have this is rolling all over the place. Let's put it up against that and the Spyderco PM2, definitely much closer to the size of the Spyderco PM2. And then finally, we're going to put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue, and also the Hogue Deca. How is the action on this knife? It surprises me that we get people who don't understand the difference here. This is not a plunge lock. This is a button-operated top liner lock. This is dramatically superior to your standard button-operated sort of. The button is the locking system. The plunge lock, which would be like on your ProTech Malibu or on the budget end of that, something like your CJRB Pyrite. These are fine knives, right? There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that the locking systems are nowhere near as sturdy or reliable as a button-operated top liner lock. I love the half moon button here. I think that's great. Obviously, your lockout on this is very, very good. I bet you're wondering, how long is he going to go on with that? Imagine it was just 20 minutes of that, and then I seamlessly continued with the review. That'd be a funny gag to pull sometimes. You'd have to make sure that I wasn't looping it, right? But anyways, the locking system is great. The lock bar tension is good. Initially, I had thought that maybe it was going to be a little bit light, but it isn't. And I wonder, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kizer can jump in and correct me. I wonder if there's that additional surface on that pin allows for the tension to not have to be nearly as high while engaging in that additional surface for basically the stability of locking against that additional pin surface is making up for that. I have absolutely no idea. It's not that the higher tension was ever a problem. It's just a thought that I have. In any case, though, the knife deploys wonderfully because it actually has a detent ball and it's not using the cylinder to act as the detent versus like a regular plunge lock. So reverse flick, forward flick, all of that, you can use the button. It's all just wonderful. It's really, really good. No complaints. Let's go ahead and do carry profile thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. It's a teeny tiny, it's like a sliver thinner. Length and height up against the PM2 and the Para 3. My God, a master of deception, the freaking PM2. There it is. Something about this knife is invisible to me. Okay. This is a very compact EDC folding knife. Obviously, it takes up even less room in your pocket than the Spyderco Para 3. We've already done a hardware check, so I don't need to do that, but you can get my tools using the link in the description or the pinned comment at the top of the comment section. Also has that in there. Let's go ahead and weigh it. Like I said, the scales are aluminum, and we have some steel internals, and then we have your choice of either M390 or LMAX. Once again, you are going to want LMAX in this case. 3.4 ounces is a little bit more than what I consider to be ultra lightweight, and honestly pretty good. The ratios are pretty good on this. You do have a little bit of a butt heavy system in here with the combination of, they're not thick scales, there's just quite a bit of aluminum, and then there's a lot of steel internals, but honestly, in hand, 3.4 ounces, I mean, like, I'm not going to complain. 3 inches of blade length, 3 inches of cutting edge, 3.4 ounces, I think it's pretty good. Let's go ahead and measure the blade stock thickness here, and then we can get into the meat and potatoes, which is largely what you'll expect it to be, save for one element, maybe, depending on how often you watch my content. 116 thousandths there, so not super duper thick. All right, moving on into the meat and potatoes. The drop bear is definitely Kizer's, like, it's their bug out, and there's nothing wrong with that. Pretty much everybody has done the bug out, and frankly, everybody has done the bug out better than the original bug out, and they've done it far less expensive. Yes, this is a Chinese product versus Benchmade's American product. Yes, in my opinion, this is a superior product, and it costs substantially less, right? I mean, it's just like for what you're getting here. But anyways, the aluminum looks great. There's a few different configurations. You can get it all gray. You can get it gray and black. You can get it there's one other one, right? But it looks good with this like kind of denim anodizing here. We have a little backspacer with a lanyard hole. Obviously, the pocket clip is fine. It's got that straight build there, not too bad. Ergonomically, it's a joy. There's nothing to complain about here. You have two different jimping zones, both of them creating meaningful traction. Very, very easy to manipulate, very convenient, very strong and reliable locking system. The blade also has a nice, thin, hollow ground cutting edge, which is nice, and that's really going to propel it the most, especially if you decide to choose M390. The edge geometry is what's going to allow this thing to continue to cut, right? It is not going to be the heat treatment on that steel, which unfortunately for Kizer and my buddy, by the way, you should all be regularly viewing his website, the Steel Hardness Lab. That's my buddy Taylor, who's doing all of the testing. We're trying to get more and more tests done on as many different knives, as many different brands as he possibly can. He is linked at the very bottom of my description. It's the last clickable link, and that just makes it easy to find, but you can click on that if you want to. Kizer, I would recommend that you reach out to Taylor and see if you can offer some samples so that he can get a good idea of the range of hardness that we can expect on various steels from the Kizer company. I think that would be a really good idea. But in this case, Kizer is advertising their M390 on both the coated. This is a DLC coating. They list it as DLC Ultra, or as I like to call it, regular DLC, but we have 59 to 60 is the advertised HRC range. On both the coated and uncoated version, I expected to see 59 to 60 uncoated, 60 to 61 uncoated. I didn't. 59 to 60 on both. This is too low. With 60 being your absolute maximum, it's too low. 60 should be the minimum. You should be aiming for 60 to 62 on production M390. Fortunately for their LMAX, curiously, they are advertising 60 to 62. I can't confirm that, but I don't have the equipment, right? This is part of the reason why I want to use reviews and unboxings to sort of push these companies and anybody in the viewing audience who wants to supply samples for Taylor to go and check out his database, because you're only going to help it grow and you're only going to create more transparency for everybody. Kizer, we should be advertising a range on M390 from, in my opinion, 60 to 62, and then we should, more importantly, be hitting it between 60 and 62. So 59 to 60 is very close to sort of the common industry standard here. I personally think that it's a little bit low. In reality, it is, I mean, it can be better. The edge retention is obviously substantially better as we go a little bit higher here. This does have thin enough geometry. Even at 59, it will do a decent job of cutting and cutting continuously, and it'll be easy to sharpen. But if you want to maximize what Kizer is doing with the steel here, in my opinion, the 60 to 62 advertised range for LMAX is going to be better, assuming they actually hit that number. So, anyways, thumb studs are in good shape. I kind of wish that they were rounded on top, but they're not, and you can't always get what you want. It's plenty comfortable, right? We're good to go. The little lanyard thing we already talked about there. I love the no hardware look. I absolutely love it. It looks awesome. I mean, there is nothing. They didn't even print the steel on this. It looks really, really good. I like this a lot. This is going to be that quintessential perfect EDC knife for a lot of people. Even if, for some people, it's just going to be another boring pocket knife because it has that sort of quintessential EDC pocket knife look, right? But for a lot of people, like I said, it is going to be absolutely perfect. Your stop pin is internal, as we saw there, both in the open position and in the closed position, which means we don't need to worry about the stop pin hitting too close to the cutting edge in the plunge grind, which, by the way, here is the plunge grind. It's a little bit thick, but I think that people will be able to manage just fine. We have no blade play whatsoever in the open position. This does run on bearings. I think we probably saw that. There's no pivot lash and is very smooth and consistent in here. Nice detent that is appropriate for a thumb stud opening knife. And even with my, sort of hasty reassembly, I didn't even check the centering. I just kind of threw it back together. It's fine. Now, admittedly, I didn't mess with the pivot, but it's fine. So taking it apart to get to the internals without messing with the pivot, it shouldn't mess with your centering, but it does. The tolerances are good enough that this one at least is centered from the factory with no detent lash. Outside of the fact that their M390 is too low, this is pretty perfect. Like, what is the deal with companies? I mean, like, people have pointed out when you heat treat things harder. By the way, there's still a group of people out there. There's still a big portion of the community who does not believe at all that it actually is more expensive to heat treat a blade a little bit harder. It is. It is factually more expensive. For example, the target range, if a company their target range for M390 is 58 to 60. Option 2 is having a target range of 60 to 62. The 60 to 62 is more expensive. There's a cost associated with that. That's not just baba booey, I wish for more hardness. It's not like they're asking a genie to just poof it harder. That's not what's happening there. There's a cost associated with it. So yes, when we see lower ranges, when we see them getting as close as possible to what the community, or maybe a smaller, like more hardcore, myself, part of the community who wants it harder, they're just pushing it as close as they can and hoping that the vast majority of people who buy it either don't care or don't know, right? That's what's happening here. So would it be a little bit more expensive to hit the M390 from 60 to 62? Yes. Does Kizer have the room to do that and not change the price? Absolutely. Absolutely they do. You know it, I know it, they know it. Kizer, 60 to 62. 60 minimum on M390. 60 is okay. It's all right for M390. 61, that's pretty good. I like that. 62, nice. That's awesome. 63, arguably you might be pushing it a little bit, but that's where it's going to be really capping out, I think, on hardness, right? That 62 spot is the sweet spot in my opinion, but 61 acceptable, and 61 is good, and 60 is acceptable. That's what I think there. 60 to 62, to my knowledge, for LMAX is also very, very good. They're both made by Bowler. They're different cake mixes, but they have very similar optimal ranges. That's why I think you should go with the LMAX version. $119, especially for the LMAX. Is it worth it? Absolutely. This is a wonderful knife. It is legitimately one of the best pocket knives that you can buy between $100 and $150, which is a really weird zone. It's kind of competitive, but the options that you have are like, yay, like, wow, neato. It's just not, it's not nearly as compelling as some of the best competitors in the sub $75 territory or the, $200 territory. This is a weird zone, 1 to 150. This is a standout winner for sure. It is highly recommendable, again, if you go with LMAX. That is going to be it today, guys. This is going to go in my recommended knives playlist. Again, if you get the LMAX version, so you can check that out if you want to. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.